Have you ever wondered what happens when the galaxy's most feared predators kneel before a man they once called prey? Before we begin, don't forget to like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more mythic human dominance stories that prove why Earth is truly the death world. Now, listen closely. The wind howled across the endless white plains, whipping ice crystals into the faces of the alien scouts hidden among the frost-shattered boulders. Even their insulated breathing masks hissed with effort as the temperature plunged another 2 degrees. Far ahead, trudging alone through waist-deep drifts, moved a solitary human male. He wore no helmet. Ragged furs, stitched from wolf pelts and scavenged synthetic hides, clung to his broad shoulders and hung past his knees. His dark hair was tied back, streaked with frost, and his eyes were pale as the surrounding snowfields. Frostbite had claimed parts of his left ear and 2 toes long ago, but he walked without hesitation, each step deliberate. In his gloved right hand, he carried a curved bone knife with notches carved along its spine. At his belt hung a satchel, its flap lined with tufts of lion mane. The alien scout leader shifted his targeting scope, tracking the humans' movements with cold amusement. The Yulthar Dominion had catalogued humanity as Class 4 dangerous prey, physically inferior, emotionally volatile, dangerous only in packs or under surprise conditions. Alone they were no more threatening than an injured elk. Pathetic, rasped a subordinate through the comm channel. Exiled no doubt. His settlement must have cast him out. Why else wander the Lion Plains unguarded? The leader grunted in agreement, though he didn't lower his scope. He studied the man's slow, determined walk, the way he scanned the landscape with measured sweeps of his eyes rather than frantic fear. There was no trembling in his posture, no desperation in his pace. Still, the leader replied, it will be entertaining to watch him die. The words had barely left his mouth when a flicker of movement appeared on the far ridge, a vast shadow slicing across the blistering sunlight. Snow crumbled down the slope as an enormous white-maned snow lion prowled into view. Its shoulders were taller than the man's head, each paw the size of a hoverbike's engine core. Muscles rolled under fur so thick it appeared sculpted from clouds. Steam curled from its open jaws with each exhalation, and ice crystals clung to the scars along its muzzle. The alien scouts adjusted their scopes in silent anticipation. The kill would be swift, they assumed. The human would see its approach too late. He would scream. The lion would roar. Blood would melt the snow, and nature would remain in its proper hierarchy. But the human did not scream. He slowed, stopped, lowered his head. Then he fell to one knee. The lion paused mid-step, its long white tail swaying behind it. It tilted its head, amber eyes narrowing, the thick black slits of its pupils expanding as it studied the man. A low rumble vibrated in its chest, echoing across the ridge like distant thunder. It took one deliberate step forward, then another, each paw sinking silently into the snow until it stood a mere 10 paces from him. The wind fell silent. The man whispered something, words carried away by the thin air before any alien microphone could capture them. He lifted his chin, exposing the faded blue tribal marks tattooed along his throat, curling down to his collarbone. His pale eyes never wavered from the lion's gaze. For a moment neither moved. The lion's breath formed clouds that drifted between them. The man's ragged fur cloak fluttered weakly around his shoulders. The scouts waited for the inevitable, for the lion to surge forward, jaws wide, ending the silent exchange with a bone-crunching snap. Instead the lion bowed its massive head. The alien commander stiffened, his four-fingered hand tightening around his scope. "What is this?" he hissed. The lion lowered itself further, bringing its muzzle to the human's chest. Its giant paws folded under its body in a gesture of submission. The man reached out with a steady hand and pressed his palm against the lion's forehead, fingers sinking into the warm, bristled fur between its eyes. Steam rose around his arm. The lion rumbled again, this time a softer sound, almost contented. He's controlling it," one scout breathed in disbelief. "No," corrected the leader softly. "It's bowing to him." The human rose to his feet. He moved around to the lion's flank, gripped its mane with his gloved hands, and hoisted himself onto its broad back. Sitting astride the giant predator, he looked across the frozen plain, eyes scanning the horizon with a new purpose. The lion shifted its weight to balance him, then turned its head slightly as if awaiting his command. Snow began to fall again, light flurries drifting between the alien scouts and their target. For the first time, the Yulthar commander felt something claw at his chest, not fear of the humans' weapons, for he carried none besides the bone knife, but fear of what this meant. The humans were not apex predators of their world. Not alone. But if the apex predators themselves bowed to them, then what were they? The human raised his knife skyward. The lion roared, a thunderous cry that rolled across the plains, vibrating the bones of every living creature within miles. Other roars answered in the far distance, echoing down ice-choked valleys. Snow tumbled from distant cliffs as if the mountains themselves shivered. The alien leader lowered his scope. His eyes flicked to the orbital feed streaming across his visor. Already, Dominion Command was requesting analysis and recommendations. He knew what his report would say. This human was no prey. He was their king. And far above, among the silent blackness between stars, the Dominion's war councils watched in uneasy silence as a lone man and his lion disappeared into the white horizon, the wind swallowing their tracks as if erasing the very memory of their passing. But they would remember. And the galaxy would tremble. If you want to see how the human king commands the lions to reclaim his people's lands and hunts those who dare enslave them, stay tuned for part 2. Like, comment what you think of Rael and his lion, and subscribe so you never miss these tales where humanity proves it was never just prey, it was a legend waiting to awaken. The lion moved with silent confidence through the frozen drifts, its paws leaving massive depressions that filled quickly with falling snow. Rael sat astride its wide back, leaning slightly forward to grip the thick mane, feeling its warmth seep through his ragged gloves into his bones. He felt its slow, rumbling breaths beneath him, the primal pulse of life that throbbed with quiet power. Each step of the lion was deliberate, unhurried, as though the world itself parted before its passage. He kept his gaze fixed on the horizon, scanning for the subtle dark shadows that meant caves, prey, or threats. His eyes, pale gray with flecks of silver, flicked briefly to the distant ridges where he knew the alien scouts still watched. Let them watch, he thought. Let them witness what they cannot understand. The wind roared around them, carrying ice crystals that stung his cheeks and coated the lion's mane in a layer of diamond frost. Rael paid it no mind. He remembered the elder's words as clearly as he remembered his own name. When prey walks with the kings of the ice, the world shall bow. He had been a boy when the elder whispered that prophecy into the flames of a cedarwood fire. That night, the auroras had danced overhead in pale green ribbons, casting silent shadows across the village. Rael's father had sat beside him, sharpening his hunting spear. His father, a towering man with storm-gray eyes and a voice that rumbled like a gathering avalanche, had nodded gravely at the elder's words. Rael remembered how the sparks rose from the fire and vanished into the endless night sky. But the elder was dead now, his bones laid to rest beneath a cairn of black river stones, and Rael's father was gone too, torn apart by Dominion war dogs when they came to conquer the valley. Rael had fought, leading his hunters in ambushes, trapping the alien patrols among crevasse-laced plains, driving their machines to fail in the blizzards. But in the end, Dominion orbital strikes shattered their fortress cliffs, burying his people beneath molten rock and ice. Only a few survived, and when Rael refused to surrender even then, the others cast him out, fearing his stubborn defiance would bring final extermination. Now he rode the greatest predator of their world, alone among the howling winds. The lion shifted its weight suddenly, head lifting, nostrils flaring as it tasted the air. Its thick white mane rippled, scattering ice dust into the breeze. Rael felt its muscles tighten beneath him like drawn steel cables. Ahead, striding between two jagged ice spires, emerged another snow lion. This one was larger than the first, its mane streaked with black scars and tipped with gray. Its jaws were flecked with blood from a fresh kill, steaming droplets clinging to its chin. Yellow eyes fixed on Rael and his lion with wary calculation. The lion beneath Rael emitted a low, resonant growl vibrating up through his thighs and chest. He tightened his grip on its mane. The newcomer circled them at a distance, each footfall silent despite its immense size. Its breath curled into thick fog. The tension in the frozen air prickled Rael's skin like frostbite. He whispered softly, words in the old tongue taught by the elder. Words of greeting, of command, of bond. The lions knew no spoken language, but they felt truth in tones, resolve in heartbeats, worth in scent and spirit. His lion dipped its head, the great mane brushing his knees. The newcomer flicked its ears, narrowed its eyes, then chuffed a single warm breath before turning away to vanish into the storm. Rael exhaled slowly. His own lion rumbled again, then resumed its march, each step a silent drumbeat echoing across the white plains. In the ridges beyond, the alien commander lowered his scope, blinking away frost gathered on his visor's edges. His subordinate leaned closer, voice trembling with disbelief. It yielded to him. Another alpha. Yielded. He speaks to them, the commander replied, voice tight with suppressed fear. Or perhaps they speak to him. He activated his wrist console, opening a channel to orbit. The Dominion command interface flickered into his vision, coded glyphs scrolling rapidly. Command, this is Ground Scout Delta 7. Updating human classification. Subject exhibits direct behavioral control over Class Alpha predator species. Recommend immediate withdrawal and re-evaluation of planetary dominance protocols. Pause. Then a curt acknowledgement blinked back. The commander closed the channel, his chest tight. The Dominion did not tolerate unforeseen variables, especially when the variable was a man commanding apex predators to bow. Rail felt the lion's pace quicken. The blizzard thinned, revealing wide plains streaked with moonlight filtering through the torn clouds above. Shadows stretched in long silver arcs across the ice fields. Far ahead, perched on a broken basalt outcrop, stood 3 more lions. They watched him approach, tails flicking, golden eyes gleaming. He felt his pulse rise. The elder's prophecy rang again in his mind. His father's voice echoed through memory. Power is not taken, Rail. It is granted. It is recognized by those who live and die beneath it. The lion beneath him halted. Rail swung down from its back, landing lightly despite the deep snow. He walked forward, each step sinking past his calves. The 3 lions watched without movement as he approached. His breath steamed into the night air. He could smell their scents now, musky warmth, snow-dried blood, predator musk layered upon ice and pine resin from wherever they last sheltered. The closest lion lowered its head fractionally. The second followed. The third, older with faded scars across its brow, hesitated only a moment before bowing too. Rail stood among them, silent. He felt the power in their submission, not as conquest but as coronation. The winds howled louder, swirling around his still figure and the lions' bowed heads, whipping his hair into black ribbons across his face. Above them, the aurora shimmered once more, ghostly green veils rippling through the darkness. In that moment, Rail understood the truth his father had spoken. Power was not simply the strength to kill, nor the will to command. It was the unspoken recognition from all life around you that your place was above them, not by force but by nature's own decree. The lion he had ridden nudged his back gently, urging him to mount once more. He climbed onto its shoulders and settled into place, feeling the warmth flood his bones against the howling chill. One by one the other lions rose to stand around him. As one pride, they turned and moved into the night, their silent footfalls swallowed by fresh falling snow. The alien scouts watched until the pride vanished into the swirling darkness. None spoke. There was nothing left to say. Rail closed his eyes as the lion carried him onward, feeling the rhythm of its strides, the beat of its mighty heart resonating through his own chest. Somewhere ahead, he knew, lay the alien settlements, their glowing towers and concrete walls mocking the frozen plains. His people remained trapped within those walls, trembling under alien overseers. But soon they would see him again. And they would see who walked beside him. As dawn began to glow faintly along the far horizon, washing the ice plains in pale lavender light, Rail opened his eyes. His resolve was colder than the blizzard, stronger than steel. The lions moved silently around him, eyes fixed on the path ahead. He raised his bone knife skyward, feeling its notched edge catch the first rays of morning. Power was granted, and he would wield it. The pale lavender glow of dawn deepened to gold as the pride moved across the plains. Each lion paced with quiet, lethal grace, their paws stirring little flurries of powder snow into the frigid breeze. Rail sat astride the largest lion, his gaze fixed forward. The sun broke free from the distant horizon, casting long sharp shadows across the ice and bathing the snow lions in molten light. Their manes glowed like woven fire against the white wasteland. He felt their tension sharpen as scents carried on the wind reached them. Blood. Was. Challenge. The lion beneath him lifted its nose, tasting the breeze with a twitch of its broad black nostrils. Its mane bristled as a growl rumbled through its chest, vibrating Rail's legs. The other lions flared their ears forward, tails flicking in anticipation. Ahead, across a wide frozen ravine, lumbered a snow bear. Taller than the largest lion, its thick white pelt was streaked with scar tissue the color of old bone. Each step of its massive forepaws cracked the ice crust beneath. Its breath steamed from between long yellowed fangs. It paused to sniff the air, small dark eyes narrowing at the pride approaching across the ravine. Rail tightened his grip on the lion's mane. The elder's teachings pulsed in his mind. The bears were solitary gods of the plains, rulers of nothing but their own hunger, answering to no creature, bowing to no spirit. But gods too could fall to kings. He spoke softly into the lion's ear. Words carried meaning not in language but in calm resolve. The lion's muscles tensed beneath him. It crouched low, tail curling, haunches coiling like drawn springs. With a single silent command it leapt. The pride surged forward as one, thundering across the ravine in a spray of shattered snow and ice. The bear reared up, letting out a roar that shook the ravine walls, but the lions flowed around it like wind around stone. Rael's lion darted left, teeth bared, swiping with claws that tore gashes through the bear's flank. The beast roared in pain, turning with surprising speed to strike, its massive paw arcing towards Rael's lion in a bone-shattering swipe. Rael twisted sideways, pulling himself low against the lion's neck as the bear's claws missed by a hand's breadth. He felt the rush of displaced air against his scalp. His lion ducked beneath the blow, spun, and lunged at the bear's exposed hind leg, sinking its fangs deep into muscle and dragging it sideways. The bear bellowed, stumbling as the other lion struck, tearing into its shoulders, flanks, and throat. Rael drew his bone knife. The ivory blade gleamed in the pale light, its notched edge honed against glaciers and stone. As the bear fell to one knee under the pride's weight, he leapt from his lion's back, landing atop the bear's broad neck. His knees dug into the thick fur as he drove the knife down between its vertebrae, twisting until he felt its final shudder echo through his bones. Silence fell. The lions released their grip and stepped back, their breaths rising in ragged clouds of mist. Blood pooled into the snow beneath the bear's corpse, steaming where it touched the ice. Rael stood atop the fallen giant, chest heaving. The wind caught his hair, sweeping it back from his face. Around him, the lions bowed their heads. In the ridges far behind, the alien scouts watched through trembling scopes. The commander swallowed against the tightness in his throat. His subordinate spoke in a hoarse whisper. He commands them. Hunts with them. No human should, they're just prey. No, the commander said, voice almost gentle with dawning terror. They were prey. This is their king. He opened a channel to orbit, though his hands trembled as he typed the security codes. Glyphs flickered across his visor. The Dominion command interface pulsed with urgency as data streamed in from thousands of observation drones circling the continent. Command, Ground Scout Delta 7 reporting. We have misclassified this species. Recommendation: immediate withdrawal from the northern plains and orbital re-evaluation. Human classification amended from Class 4 dangerous prey to Class Alpha variable threat. This subject is bonded with apex predators and demonstrates behavioral and combat integration beyond baseline parameters. The channel fell silent except for the pulse of static. Then a terse acknowledgement flickered back. Dominion Command was listening now. They would analyze. They would calculate. And they would fear. Rael climbed down from the bear's neck, wiping blood from his blade onto its fur. The lions watched him with unblinking eyes. He moved to his lion, placing a hand on its cheek, feeling the warmth of its breath against his wrist. It lowered its head, nudging his chest in acknowledgement. The other lions circled closer, silent and watchful. Rael raised his knife skyward. The rising sun gleamed along its edge. Around him, the lions roared as one, their cries rolling across the plains like thunder over deep water. Far away, within their armored shelters and reinforced observation posts, alien scouts shivered under those roars. It was a sound that carried no question, only promise. Rael slid the knife back into his belt sheath. He looked to the horizon where Dominion towers rose from the ice plains, their steel spires gleaming in the new sunlight. He saw in his mind the pens where his people were kept, guarded by alien soldiers with electric prods and bone-chilling cruelty. He felt no rage, only certainty. The lion shifted beneath him as he climbed onto its back once more. The pride formed a protective circle, their manes stirring in the morning breeze. They began to walk, their steps silent, leaving behind the corpse of a god who had bowed to a king. Rael closed his eyes as the wind kissed his face, and for the first time since exile, he felt whole again. The elder's prophecy no longer felt like hope whispered into dying flames. It felt like truth etched into the marrow of the world itself. They moved south, towards the Dominion towers and the hearts of those who believed themselves rulers of all. The lions padded through the snow without haste, each silent step carrying the weight of inevitability. Above them, the sun rose higher, its rays igniting the plains in pale gold. The wind carried their scent forward, heralding their coming. The aliens watched in stunned silence. One by one, they lowered their scopes, unable to tear their gaze from the sight of a human riding the king of predators, knife in hand, moving like dawn incarnate across a world they once called conquered. Rail opened his eyes. The towers ahead loomed taller with each passing moment. He felt the lion's pulse beneath him, steady and strong, matching the rhythm of his own heart. He whispered into the wind, words only the lion beneath him could hear. Soon. Rail and his pride moved south through the blizzard-whipped plains, their silent procession a living river of pale manes and amber eyes. The Dominion towers grew taller with each passing hour, rising like blackened spears from the white wasteland, their armored plating gleaming with frost. Thin trails of smoke curled skyward from their heating vents, carried away by the relentless winds. He rode at the forefront, perched upon the massive lion whose mane rippled in the storm like a war banner. Snow crusted Rail's hair, turning his dark locks into strands of obsidian streaked with ash. His pale eyes remained fixed on the towers ahead, unblinking even as freezing winds lashed against his face. Beneath him, the lion's powerful shoulders moved with effortless grace, its deep breaths rumbling through his body like the earth's hidden heartbeats. As they approached, alarm klaxons erupted along the tower's perimeter walls. Red lights blinked against steel battlements. Squads of Dominion soldiers scrambled into defensive formations, plasma rifles trained outward into the snowstorm. Hover drones lifted into the sky, forming a cordon of buzzing sentinels that scanned the advancing shapes with narrow, glowing optics. Inside the tower command chamber, the alien commander watched the feeds in grim silence. His subordinates murmured to each other in low, anxious tones. On the central display, Rail's silhouette appeared, flanked by lions so large their shoulders reached his hips even when he rode astride their king. Heat signatures flickered in bright gold and red along the display's cold blue palette. "Is he armed?" a subordinate asked, voice trembling. The commander shook his head slowly. "Not with any weapon that matters to us. But he wields something far greater." Rail halted his pride at the edge of the perimeter, where the packed snow gave way to the cleared landing pads. The lions fanned out around him in a half-circle, their tails flicking with quiet anticipation. The storm fell away for a moment, leaving only a biting stillness that hummed with imminent violence. Rail raised his gaze to the towering walls before him. He saw the Dominion soldiers shifting nervously behind armored battlements. He saw the gleaming barrels of rifles, the blinking surveillance lenses, the command windows flickering with lines of alien glyphs. And beyond them, buried deep within reinforced bunkers, he saw the terrified hearts of his people. He drew his bone knife from its sheath. The notched ivory blade gleamed in the cold sunlight, each carved groove catching the light like runes of prophecy. Slowly, deliberately he lifted it high overhead. The lions roared as one. Their cries shook the tower's steel frames, rattling armored panels and shivering thick glass viewports. Snow tumbled from rooftops as vibrations rippled through the foundations. The Dominion soldiers flinched back in unison, rifles wavering. One drone feed flickered with static before cutting out entirely, overwhelmed by the sheer amplitude of the lion's roar. Rail spoke, his voice calm yet carrying on the wind with unbreakable resolve. "Open your gates." The commander heard the words through the feed, though they were spoken in the human tongue. He felt their weight settle on his chest like a slab of black stone. He glanced at his subordinates. None moved to obey. "Sir," one whispered, "what do we do?" The commander looked back at the display. Rail's gaze met his through the drone feed, and though hundreds of meters of snow and steel separated them, he felt the intensity of those eyes pierce through every layer of armor, machinery, and command hierarchy. He saw not a starving exile, not a hunted animal, not a desperate man. He saw a king. "Order all forces to stand down," the commander said quietly. "Seal the internal bunkers. Withdraw non-essential units to orbit. Leave the perimeter open." His subordinates stared in stunned silence, but none argued. Orders rippled through comm channels. Soldiers stepped back from firing lines. Drones lifted higher, their optics dimming as combat protocols disengaged. The great armored gates rumbled open, metal screeching against frost-caked tracks. Rail lowered his knife and nudged the lion forward. The pride advanced at his heels, silent save for the rhythmic crunch of their paws against ice. They passed under the archway, entering the wide-open courtyard beyond. Soldiers watched them pass, weapons lowered, breaths steaming in the frozen air. None dared move. Within the courtyard, scattered groups of humans huddled together in wool cloaks and tattered blankets. Their eyes widened as they saw Rail approach, confusion and fear giving way to stunned awe. A murmur rippled through them, rising like wind in pine canopies. "It's him," someone whispered. "Rail, he lives." Rail dismounted. His boots crunched against the packed snow. The lion beside him lowered its head, mane brushing his shoulder in silent acknowledgement. He walked to the gathered prisoners, his knife still held loosely at his side. One old man stepped forward, his gray beard stiff with frost. Tears welled in his eyes as he stared up at Rael. "They said you died. They said the lions took you." Rael met his gaze with quiet certainty. "They did," he said softly. "And they brought me back." Behind him, the lions spread out across the courtyard, their massive forms dwarfing supply crates and armored vehicles alike. Soldiers retreated from their paths, eyes wide with primal terror. The pride moved with calm assurance, tails swaying as they surveyed the towers and walls with silent dominion. Rael turned to face the largest lion, placing a hand upon its brow. Its amber eyes flickered closed for a moment, and a deep rumble vibrated in its chest. Slowly, it bent one massive knee, lowering itself until its head touched the snow before him. One by one, the other lions mirrored the gesture, bowing to Rael amidst the gathering silence. Humans gasped. Even the Dominion soldiers could not tear their eyes away. Rael raised his knife skyward. The sun broke fully above the towers then, washing him in molten gold light. Snowflakes drifted down around him, sparkling like falling stars. He spoke in the old tongue, words taught by the elder, words he once whispered into dying campfires but now spoke into a trembling world. "This land has no gods, only kings. And we take back what is ours." The lions roared once more, and their cries shattered every last illusion of Dominion supremacy. Windows trembled. Steel beams vibrated. Far above, aboard orbiting Dominion ships, commanders watched in silent dread as their feeds filled with the sight of a human male standing amidst kneeling lions, knife raised, hair streaming in the wind, eyes alight with unstoppable purpose. Rael lowered his knife and turned to his people. "Gather your strength. Today we rise. Today we hunt." A low rumble of resolve answered him from the gathering crowd. Men and boys straightened their spines. Old warriors clenched frostbitten fists. Eyes burned with a flickering hope they thought long extinguished. The lion rose behind Rael, mane rippling like a crown forged from winter's breath. It pressed its massive head against his back, and he felt its warmth suffuse his bones once more. Together, they turned to face the tower's inner gates where Dominion command lay hidden behind walls of steel and fear. Rael felt his heart beat in time with the lions. "Come. Certain. Irrevocable." He whispered only 2 words, but they carried farther than any roar. "Move forward." And as he stepped across the courtyard, his people followed. The lions padded at his flanks, tails curling like silent standards in the drifting snow. Above them, the sun climbed higher into a sky of crystalline blue, illuminating a world reborn beneath the feet of its rightful king. For in that moment, every creature watching, human or alien, predator or prey, understood a truth older than any Dominion empire. They called humans prey. Until the snow lions bowed to their king.